Okay. Uh, Hello, everyone. I was about to say good morning, but that's only true probably for me. My name is Amy Salazar, and I am an associate professor at Washington State University in the United States. And we are here with the INTRAC Higher Education TIG and with our webinar today. So I don't currently have any additional, our next webinar or activity scheduled yet, but I will soon. So if anyone's interested in being part of the higher education topic interest group and you're not already on the listserv, you can email me. I'll put my email in the chat, but it's amy.salazar@wsu.edu, and I will add you to our list. So we will have our presenters today will be Dr. Maggie Inchley, Director of Graduate Studies in the Drama Department at Queen Mary University of London, and Dr. Sylvan Baker, Senior Lecturer in Community Performance Applied Theatre at the University of London Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. And we're also joined by two additional presenters that I didn't have previous information on. So sorry I didn't write out information from you all, but we also have Isabel Kirkham and Kismet Mayon. And I'm sorry, Kismet, if I said your name wrong. Please, I did not write down the how you say that
You
correctly. So,
said it perfectly, don't worries.
okay, perfect. Okay, so I am going to hand it over to you all, and thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Oh,
Amy.
I'm so sorry. One other thing I wanted to say. If questions come up, we'll do question. I mean, you can decide, Sylvan and Maggie, when you want to do questions, if you want to have them till the end, or if you want to do them as you go. So just let people know how you feel about that.
I think if people
Yeah,
want to put their thoughts in the chat, but we'll probably come to questions at the end.
Okay, that sounds great.
yeah. Just pop, but just however they pop up. Yeah. But thanks for having us, Amy. Thanks for organising this all. And hello from. I think we're not all in London actually because Kizzy's in Huddersfield. So hello from England, I guess. And thanks for coming. And as Amy said, I'm Maggie from Queen Mary, but actually, I'm really going to be handing it over to Kiz to start us off. We are an artistic research project, a creative project. We do creative research together as a team. And we do like to have a bit of a warm up at the beginning. Kizzy, are you there to start us off?
Yeah. So we just want to ask you what sort of nurtures you, and that could be in any sort of form, anything. We don't have a huge amount of time, so if we could do a fire round, that'd be amazing. I can start off with whoever I see on my screen first. So perhaps Betty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think spending time in nature and sea swimming are things that really nurture me.
Love that. Maybe I
Brilliant.
shouldn't mute myself, sorry. And maybe we'll pass on to Emma.
I think I've recently taken up biking, and that nurtures me, I would say. Cycling.
Love that. Amy.
I would say spending time with my pets and going out in my camper van would be my.
Love that. Izzy.
Yeah, I think spending time with my loved ones, but also recently I found the thing I like doing is hiking. So hiking, I've recently climbed Snowdon, so that type of stuff. Yeah, it's good.
That's incredible. Big up you. Should we go to Sylvan?
I would say laughing as much as I can, as often as I can. And at the other end of the extreme of sort of reasonable, high intensity fitness workouts, HIIT workouts, short, sweet, painful.
Yeah, I do love Tabata workouts because they're like 4 minutes and then you can just like have that little break. So I love that. Apologize for my baby screaming in the background. She obviously likes laughing as well. So she agrees. And Maggie?
You've said some of the things that I was going to say, so I'm going to have to say music. Actually, last night I went to a gig and I saw Paul Simon. It was amazing. Yeah, I mean, he's very old, and I just had to see him. but because it might be the last time he tours to this country anyway. So it was amazing. It was, yeah, wonderful to share his music with him. Yeah.
Amazing. Sorry, I've switched devices and I'm getting my partner calling me like profusely, so I apologize. Who else have I got on my screen?
You.
Oh, that's it. Me. Okay, my child she nurtures me weirdly. So yeah, and everything. Just to echo what everyone else has said as well. She's being very loud right now, so I'm gonna go on mute and pass over to Maggie.
Thank you so much, Kizzy, and it's really nice to find out a little bit about get a little bit of insight into what nurtures everybody here, and that is going to feed into what we talk about today, which is about our project, the Verbatim Formula. But within that, we did a mini project, a sub-project, I suppose, called Cradle of Learning, and part of that was to talk about what we need to nurture us and to support us in our learning practices and development and career. So that's kind of, it does feed into today's theme, but we do like to share positive and joyous things that happen in our lives. So I'm going to find the PowerPoint because I'll go into a bit more of a kind of formal presentation. I'm hoping that you can see that.
We can, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And today's session isn't very long, so I'm going to kind of power through this PowerPoint a bit and I think going to try and go quite fast through it, so that I can show you little bits of films and you're going to hear some of the testimonies. And testimonies are as I'm going to tell you, they're our main artistic practice and our research practice, working with lived experience. So the testimonies are really important, really key parts of that. This is what we're doing. We've done the warm-up. I'm going to present TVF. We're going to talk a bit about reflecting on the co-research model that we've been developing over the years that we've been doing this project, which has been going for over 10 years. And in recent years, we've been getting a bit better at researching together, I think, co-creating, co-researching. And then we'll say a little bit more about the Cradle of Learning, the specific Cradle of Learning project we did with care leaver students and care experienced young adults, young people, some of whom had been to university, some of whom it just was impossible to get to university or to stay at university. And we'll share some of our testimonies with you. And then perhaps at the end, there'll be some time for responses or questions to us about the project or anything that you like. And by the way, if you do want to say anything or ask any questions while I'm talking, just pop them in the chat. And I think one of the team here can stop me. And if that seems appropriate, and we can just talk about whatever you would like to. So I'm going to start with this 1-minute video because this is by our co-researchers talking about the project. So it seems like a really good way to introduce our team.
We're the Verbatim Formula. We're a group of care experienced researchers.
We use verbatim testimony and creative practices to make sure the voices of care experienced young people are heard much better.
It's a blueprint that can be taken anywhere, and it's all about trust, care, empathy, love, and create safe spaces for people to come together. And it's been an honour to be able to do this for so many years and to create content for the next generation and to also help change those policies and procedures that create issues that we all have to face.
TVF has changed whose voices and whose experiences are getting heard. And that really matters because it gives people like us working in higher education and in children's care better access to what really matters to our co-researchers who are care experienced.
Using performance, we've shared insights with government ministers, foster carers, social workers, civil servants, academics, and others with experience of care. We've discovered that understanding what being in care feels like from the inside might affect the decisions that care professionals make from the outside on what the care system looks like.
Okay, there we are. So that's a little bit of an introduction. I hope it made sense. I think they speeded up the audio on that, so we were speaking quite fast. But I hope you saw some of our team there, some more of the wider team, and picked up that we are all care experienced in different ways, and we work together with lived experience in we try to work in a kind of democratic way. We try to honour the lived experience that everybody brings into the project, and that everybody's voices, experiences, opinions are important. And we're particularly working with this idea of expertise in your own experience and valuing that and listening to it carefully. And also you'll see there that it says that we're working with young people and young adults. And I think that part of the rationale of the project is to work with people, not do research about people, if you see what I mean. So it's not like we're going to go in and find things out and harvest the data. The information and the research that we do is relational. It's part of a dialogue. So that's an important part of our methodology. And as you would have picked up as well, we have this key artistic practice that we're doing is our research methodology, is this artistic practice from verbatim theatre. Verbatim meaning word for word or in exactly the same words. I don't know if anybody else would like to explain it, would they? If anybody wants to chip in and just explain very simply what we actually do.
I was pausing for a moment. I'm going to jump in. So you may be now more increasingly familiar with this idea as a form where performances are made or created based on the words that people said. And that's the point of departure for the verbatim formula. And we use a particular genre of verbatim performance, which is recorded delivery or headphone verbatim. The process is straightforward. Care experienced researchers and people speak to one another, have conversations, audio record those conversations with all the correct consents and all of the processes of anonymity built into them. The people that gave the interviews to each other then listen back to the material, and they decide if there are elements of that conversation that they recorded that would be useful for other people to hear. We take those elements and they are given to another person. So the testimonies that you're going to hear later from us aren't our words. They are the words of the people who were interviewed. What you will see is we will play those testimonies into our own headsets, headphones, and then as we hear the words, we will say what we can hear. Every word out loud to you. Every pause, every broken sentence, every cough and splutter, we will share them verbatim. And that's what we do.
Thank you, Sylvan. And I think when we first started using this method, one of the things we really noticed was that some of the care experience young people really liked it because it kept them anonymous. It was a technique that enabled them to say what they wanted to say, with perhaps in a small group or with a peer that was understanding and listening to their experience. But then because somebody else is speaking those words in the more public setting, that person who originally said it remains anonymous, and it sort of protects their privacy if that's what they would prefer. So that we realised was quite useful in certain situations if you want to give feedback, if you want to say something that's on your mind that you might not choose to say publicly or in certain because of certain power dynamics. And obviously, I mean, over the years we have written quite a lot of articles that you can find, and we've theorized what we do. And for example, we've used the work of this phenomenologist or anthropologist, both, Thomas Gordas, who talks about these somatic modes of attention that we pay to another person. So we think that's really what we're doing when we're listening as hard as we can. We're paying bodily attention to somebody's voice and the lived experience that voice carries. And this is a mode of attentiveness, which is also mentioned in sort of writings by feminist writers, feminist ethicists like Joan Tronto and Nell Noddings, who talk about attentiveness as the sort of principal mode of care. just as it is for an artist is paying incredible attention to the world around them often, or the people around them. And Joan Tronto, of course, comes out with this brilliant thing that, you know, if we were to reorganize the world around the needs of others and to really listen to the needs of others, then the world would be organized in a very different way. So it has political and cultural, you know, huge implications, sort of politically and culturally as well. And I am going quickly. So that, I mean, that's the base. That's the basis of it. We have this aesthetics of listening that supports the validity of voices and respect for voices. And just to show you a few images of the sorts of places that we've shared our work, and what we've done with our testimonies. Sometimes we've shared them over the years in theatres, for example. This is an art centre called Battersea Art Centre, and we had our testimonies, but we blended them with theatrical movement and lighting, and beatboxing. We actually did some beatboxing, hip hop beatboxing practice, and lots of audience interaction and audience creativity as well. That's another. There's kids actually, and we, you know, in this one at the National Theatre Learning Studio, we tried to make some very striking images of those sort of what it feels like to be in the care system, again based on people's lived experiences, how they wanted to express that, and blended with the testimonies that we were sharing as well. This was work in a museum that we did, which is called the Foundling Museum in London, which is a really fascinating place. It was first built as the Foundling Hospital by a guy called Thomas Coram in the 18th century, and it's kind of known as the first children's home, taking in sort of babies and young children from across London whose mothers weren't able to look after them because they themselves were very, very poor, or perhaps they were a serving woman in somebody's house. So they had to give up their babies. That's a long story. We could talk about it all day, but I'll just show you that image of us kind of looking into the archives, looking at the historical documents and comparing it with our own experiences of having our lives written about in files. And that felt like a very resonant to today, the work we did there. And then we also have shared our work in sort of more sort of context of sort of conferences, presentations, policy, stakeholder context. This was in the old, you remember this one, Kiz? We were in the old, I forgot what it's called. City Hall, thank you. I was going to call it Town Hall. Yeah, City Hall, where the young people we were working with invited lots of different stakeholders into the room, and we sort of had a whole day of activities and sharing and thinking about making systems better together. And there was one year we were able to go even to the Department for Education, and that guy there was at the time the children's minister, and we kind of made him listen to our testimonies and experiences of care. Sadly, he didn't last very long in that job, but we were able to get infiltrate the Department for Education and get the minister and the civil servants in there to listen to real experiences.
And that was really significant, wasn't it, Maggie? Because in the UK, the Department for Education is the government department with overall responsibility for young people who they would call looked after young people. We call them care experience because you can leave the care system, but there's still an experience of it, which is ongoing.
Thanks, Sylvan. And then the last of context, or second to last actually, we've done quite a lot of work in universities thinking about the experiences of care leaver students and sharing those experiences with professional services staff and academics at times as well. So that's an image from the senior common room in my university, Queen Mary. We kind of like theorized that by thinking about the somatic norms of institutions and whose bodies and voices and experiences are normalized in those spaces. So that was one example there, and we'll share some experiences of higher education students, care leaver students' experiences of higher education in a moment. And finally, on what we've done. This is what we've been working on very recently, and it's a project that came out of what our care experience research team suggested that they wanted to do, which was to share lots of the activities and methodologies and creative stuff we've been doing with other young people who enter care, and to give them a set of resources that enable them to begin to kind of connect with themselves, connect with other people, think about their strengths, and become more creative and you know, perhaps more confident in articulating their experiences and sharing them with others. So that's a digital resource that we're currently just finishing off and sharing it with, and beginning to share that more widely in as many contexts as we can, really. And this slide is about what we've only just recently started to sort of think about this, I suppose, but about our reflections on this model of co-researching that we've been developing. And if any of the team here, like Izzy and Kiz, want to chip in here, I try to divide these points into what Sylvan and I were thinking about it, and we try to divide it into like what we think co-researching can do, which is valuable and positive. But we also thought about some of the challenges that we've had over the year as well, over the years, and how we keep needing to take care of our practice and pay attention to our practice, because there are, you know, pitfalls and challenges that happen along the way. So I mean, you know, broadly speaking, as I was saying, we think this model of co-research can be a more sort of inclusive model, where people's voices and experiences are heard and valued, that brings in more diverse experiences into our research practices. And the way that we share our work enables, you know, many stakeholders from all over, from sectors, all sorts of different sectors, to hear this expertise, you know, as research that is very valuable. And I think I hope what's been happening in the last few years is that we've been able to sort of you know, ask you along to events, you know, activities like such as these in academic contexts, and that you've been able to lead on some of those. I know that isn't the case today, probably, but we certainly have been doing that in different contexts. And then I think we've had some challenges, and some of those challenges are to do with wanting to change a lot, wanting to do a lot, having real like ambitions for this research, and believing in its power, but finding that it takes up a lot of time. We have to make sure that people are paid for it, so we have to do funding applications. We have lots of everybody has really busy lives, everybody, and so there's never enough time for it. There's never enough capacity. And we're trying to hold together a quite a big group of people, and they're all going off and doing different things. So different people can participate at different times, which means that our aspiration to include everybody can't always work as well as we would love it to work, because not everyone is there all the time. So we've had to find ways of managing that. And you know, Kizzy and Izzy, you know, if you want to comment on that, or give your perspectives on what you think are the benefits or the challenges of this way of working, please feel free.
I also think there's just something, Maggie, just while people are gathering their thoughts, there's something about the depth of the participation in this. This isn't some optical manifestation of saying, we're working with these people. Look, they designed a logo for us. The co-researchers in TBF, the young co-researchers who aren't necessarily affiliated to academic institutions, but are still researchers, are at the core of stuff. And being at the core of stuff is brilliant, but also really materializes that consensus and democracy are related but not the same. So trying to find a way to get through shared agreement and involve people in ways that they can be involved, notwithstanding the challenges that Maggie's already mentioned of time and the world, can sometimes make it challenging. But I wonder what you might think.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to just add on some of the benefits. Sorry, I'm off doing twice because I'm two devices here. But some of the benefits in that respect is that everyone gets a chance. I know that not all of us can do group work, but when we can, it's really amazing because we all come together to, for instance, do a show at the National Theatre, which is quite a renowned theatre within London. Um, but for instance, having different people to enter different parts of a process, you get different perspective. And sometimes if there's too much of a big group, voices and experiences can get drowned out. So I think there are some benefits in this sort of type of working. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, TVF in itself for me has done so many wonders, and I've met so many amazing people. We call ourselves a little family, and I just think this type of work, if this was sort of put across, if this was put across in different places, it's almost like a blueprint to create real space for people to use their artistic talents. Like Maggie said, we use different types of art. So again, having different people involved at different times means you get different artistic talents involved, and you create so many different things, or raising awareness on something that we all find really important. But I won't say much more. Izzy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to echo that and kind of what Sylvan was saying as well. Like it's for me, like co-design and co-research never is done very well. As a case person, you're normally just placed there to be I guess like a tick box. But I'm not sure if anybody else agrees with that, but that's normally what happens. Like it is normally you just get to be like, oh yeah, I like the color of that. Whereas it's very much like we get to really experience what it's like to be researchers um, in an academic area, and it's really just wonderful. But everything that Kez said as well, I just want to echo that. I guess, yeah, the challenges are is that we are all care experienced adults. We all have lives, we all have things that happen on, and there's a real that is a real challenge. But TBF and the team really kind of work well with us to kind of find the space for us to engage and be a part of the work as much as it is possible for us to really meet us on our where we're at, which is a really great way of doing it. Yeah.
Thanks,
I think
everybody.
it's really interesting talking about the diversity in all kinds of ways of this research. I mean, epistemically, it changes the knowledge that is discovered. It enriches and broadens the perspectives of that knowledge because of the point of departure that it's coming from. The co-researchers in TVF aren't just telling their stories, their life testimonies. They are making interventions and posing questions that are coming from that experience, but they're not just exposing their scars in a Titus Andronicus way for the delectation and pleasure for somebody else.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now I'm looking at the time and thinking I'm going to slightly squash up what I was going to do, because I really want you to hear the testimonies that we've prepared to share with you, to give you much more like an idea of what we really do. But just to say that we did this project called the Cradle of Learning, and this was a collaboration with partners in Scotland at Strathclyde University. You'll be pleased to hear, Emma. And the Articulate Cultural Trust. I don't know whether you know about them, but they do a lot of work with so-called marginalized communities and care experience people. And this ended up, we shared a lot about experiences of higher education and the difficulties in terms of accessing higher education for care experienced people. And this, we did creative workshops together, and eventually this turned into learning and training for staff at the University of Strathclyde, and we've done this training at other universities as well, including my own. We could here go straight to the testimonies. I think I was going to show you a short video of that, but I think perhaps it's better, given the time, to go straight to the testimony. So if that's all right with people, who was going to go first? Was it Kiz?
Yeah, can someone else go first, just because I'm having real issues with my devices today, so just bear with or someone else and I'll be ready. Sorry.
I'll see if I can set myself up and go. So, to reiterate, this is a testimony that comes from a conversation between two participants, co-researchers with us, who were talking about, as care experience students, or just students in general, what were some of the things that they would like others to appreciate who weren't care experience students. So let me see if I can do this. So I've got a device here with a testimony on, and now I'm going to play the testimony and try and say what they say. It's
And
very
just,
quick, so bear with me.
I was just going to, before Sylvan shares, and we have 3 testimonies. Perhaps we'll be able to share if we can. Just wanted to say that what we did is we shared these with staff, and we had some questions, and this is an example of the question. So what's in your power to do to address some of the challenges and concerns for care leavers at your university? So it's never just listening to experiences. It's always thinking about, okay, I've heard that, I've listened to that, I've paid attention. Now what am I going to do? It's not just, I've heard that, that's all I need to do. It's what action am I going to take? So that's what we'd be asking people to do alongside listening to these testimonies.
Thanks, Maggie. And I think that highlights that the performance part of this work is not the end of the process. It's kind of the middle. It's to start conversations. Here we go. I've always been underestimated because I'm such a laid-back person. I've always looked at being lazy, but I'm a very creative person. So being underestimated actually killed my confidence sometimes. And then I had to look to my sisters to get encouraged. Yeah. I was very defensive. I never wanted to take constructive criticism. If you told me something, I'd probably shut you down more faster than MC Hammer's bank account. I'm serious. You can never tell me to do something. This is the way how I'm doing it. But from there, I have learned to take constructive criticism in a positive way. Even though I get upset, I'll take it. I'll take it negatively, but I'll change it into a positive. The one thing that I took from my mum, my birth mum, is that I'm proud. I never like to ask for help. And that's one of the things that was actually forcing me to fail in a lot of areas of my life. And I thought asking for help was like weak, and actually it isn't. And like asking for help is actually helping you to get something. I mean, it doesn't mean that you ask for help all the time, but if you're really stuck, just ask for help. That little help can take you a very long way. That's what I've realized as well. I've noticed that a lot of people in my class have problems, not just from care, but general problems. And from there, we were able to come together as a group to push each other to study. And when we'd done that, we got our work done. We got onto each other and said we had to do this work. And from there, we all graduated. No one failed. So from personal experience, just because you're in care, other people have problems. But if you come together generally as a group, I feel like you'll get things done. I'm not an outcast. I'm normal, not like everybody else. I'm not limited. That's my doorbell.
Thank you, Sylvan. So that was one of our 3 testimonies. Izzy, have you got yours ready, or Kiz?
Yeah, I'm happy to go next. My toddler is in the background, not in the room. She is in post toddler after nursery mode. So apologies if you hear her shouting, but it's fine. It's fine if you do. It just adds to the atmosphere of my environment at home. Cool. I will get started. Da, 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 da. Yeah, like in the beginning, it was hard because like I'd moved into my accommodation until like the second week of uni, purely because I had to wait for my student finance to get all my stuff and then order it and everything. So that was quite stressful because like obviously everyone else already had their stuff. Everyone was moving in. There was even like moving in parties, and I couldn't go to any of them or do anything in the first like week. I just had to like sort out all my stuff. So I had to like buy everything that I needed to buy for the accommodation that I'm now in and also like pack and everything. And I could pack beforehand, but then I also needed to like buy suitcases. But before I went to university, like right before, I was on benefits. but I was like really struggling. And I just didn't even have any money to even travel. So I just had to wait to get my student finance. So yeah, and there was no opportunity for me to meet people because I was just so busy trying to do stuff. Like one of the reasons why I was really struggling was because like in my head I just kept telling myself like you're not smart enough or you're not good enough, and those kind of things they've like been in my head since I was born, basically like all throughout my time in foster care. And it's just stuck with me being here, and the fact that the course is actually hard just makes it worse. But yeah, I think that's definitely one thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My circumstances are completely different, so they will affect things that I do in life. So my academics. So that's why they should know, but that's what they should know. But I don't know. I don't know how to tell them. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a care leaver. I'm a care leaver. I don't really know how to put it in words. So I might just leave it. I don't know.
Can you guys hear me okay?
You can.
So after I started my degree, I was in the process of moving house, and also my mental health was struggling. And then we had a dissertation to start working on, and I could not grab my head around how to do the dissertation. And I would ask for help on that, and they would tell me what to do, but I'm like a visual kind of thinker. And when someone tells me what to do, sometimes I don't really understand it. And I felt like the more I was asking for help and I said I didn't understand it, the more I was being like a nuisance, like someone who just keeps going back, like I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, oh, I've told you a million times, you should know by now, type of thing. I just stopped doing that. And then I fell so behind that I would get some extensions and I still couldn't do it. So I eventually said that I'm still really struggling, and they sent me to the department like where you test for dyslexia and dyspraxia. But I was struggling with mental health, so that wasn't the kind of help that I was needing. So I felt a bit like, yeah, this is not what I'm asking for, and I don't think I'm really getting anywhere. So I think the best thing for me to do is actually just leave. So they had a conversation with me, and they didn't even sort of say, oh, I don't think you should leave. Here's what we can do. It was just about, oh, I'm really sorry that you're in this situation. Goodbye type of thing. So yeah, I lost all confidence in things. And because I left, I got worse within my mental health, because when you're young, you think, oh, I'm never going to make it to uni like all these other people that have families to support them, and you just don't think you're good enough. So I tried to do the whole uni thing and get a degree, and I felt like I was a bit let down. So my whole reason for voicing my experience today is just to try and change the system and make it more suitable for everybody that is struggling, rather than just, okay, here's the box that you have to tick when you come and say to us you're struggling. Right, I've sent you to that place and that should be fine. But it should be more than that, not just a bit of pen and paper. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, all three of you. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen now. Because really, I mean, I didn't want to say anything more after the testimonies, because we'd love to hear your responses and be here for any questions that you might have about about the project, but especially we'd love to know what you thought about those techniques and what the testimony, how you'd like to respond to the testimonies. So please jump in if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Like really, really brilliant. Um, when you've given this to university staff, what kind has it been hard to get university staff to come? Do you tend to be presenting to staff members that kind of work in student support roles or academics? And yeah, I'm just really curious to hear what kind of response that you get because like I think it's incredibly powerful. And when I'm kind of advocating on behalf of students, um, like student support staff tend to be really understanding, but then sometimes the lecturers, there's some brilliant ones, but then there's a lot that would be a bit more hands off. And they're the ones who I really feel like hearing something like this would be so powerful. So just wondering what kind of response you all have received when you've given it to university staff.
Yeah, it has been, yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't admit that it's harder to get academics to think about, to find the time really to come to the sorts of sessions that we've done. It has been difficult. I've been working with Queen Mary and some of the sort of staff involved with care experience in estranged students. And we've made a sort of digital training platform which people can go to, but it's voluntary. So I don't know how many, I really don't know how many people will do it. But we've had more success with professional services staff, particularly when the sort of line managers understand what it is and see the value of sharing it. So we've shared it with a number of different groups, like the accommodation people and the careers people and the advice and counselling people, and even security staff have come along occasionally.
Finance.
So
yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Finance. Yeah. Finance team.
Yeah, that's right. Finance people. There's a value in all of those staff and just understanding the extra challenges that care leaver students can face, and the different, and the fact, and to know that they do have the agency to change the system, right? And
yeah,
I think it's interesting because I think faculty in lots of institutions feel slightly burdened by initiatives and information, and worst case scenario, if it's not articulated in a clear way, it can feel like yet another thing they have to do as well as doing their job. What some of the reactions to the testimonies, though, once you get into the room, are quite interesting. And I think it's because the point of intervention isn't about blame, it's about awareness and reality. So there's another testimony that was collected at this time where a young person talked about the fact that as a student at university, all the other things that were happening to them because they were care experienced, they had to manage and then go to university. And they said, I'm like putting out little fires everywhere before I even get into the lecture room. And like some of their peers were like, what am I going to have from Uber Eats tonight is all I have to think about. And finding a way to allow staff, any staff in the university, to kind of get their head around that is really useful.
Definitely.
It's been really noticeable to me how few people, how many people, I suppose, just don't understand the terms at all. Care experience or estranged don't understand them, and an awful lot of people seem to think that if you use the word care experience, it means that you're caring for somebody else, as maybe perhaps a family. But in fact, obviously, as we know, a lot of people are both care experience themselves and caring for somebody else. But yes, but we didn't want to use the term looked after. So
yeah. Keir's just put in the chat about the positive reactions. Keir, do you want to speak about that?
Just to touch on Maggie's point about, and yourself, in fact, how it's difficult to get staff, higher educational staff in particular, to be in these spaces. What I found just doing work with TVF or with the GLA in terms of Leaving Care Week, you saw one of those pictures, is to invite them into something that is about them, but then sharing that verbatim. So not focusing it around an arts-based practice or something like that, but then mixing it in really does throw them off a little bit and then makes them engage a little bit more. So that's been very positive.
That's a really good point. Thanks.
And I guess it's really hard to contradict a testimony. Someone thought it, said it, felt it, experienced it. And because it's not about just an account of a moment, it then allows the people who listen to it, the audience, as it were, to think about it differently, or to possibly have that space to think about how they may feel or have felt if they were in the situations that they were hearing about, or had to encounter them in a different way, not just as their job. And that's quite useful. It's interesting seeing social workers who are, long-serving veteran social workers who have seen and done far more things with a far greater emotional charge than anything that's ever shared in any testimony, because that's not the point of the verbatim formula, becoming really emotionally activated by what they're hearing and saying to us that because it's being spoken to them, it lands with them in a way that's different from if they read it in a report, or if they were talking to the person who was saying it, because of all of the other stuff that gets in the way. And that can be really useful.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being so impactful. I mean, I found it very emotional listening to it. I think especially Kismet, the one that you spoke to, really resonated with a lot of the students that I work with. So it was brilliant to hear it. How do we get you over to Ireland is the next question. And is this kind of, so I think you said you've been doing this for 9 or 10 years. This has kind of been in 10 years. So it's been in the work. So it's not a short-term project. Is the vision for this to kind of continue the work and raising awareness, or what's the hopes for the Verbatim project?
With 5 minutes to go, huge question. And I'm aware that Emma was going to jump in. But I think the short answer is, when we started, it was asking care experience people to talk about that, but it's emerged and evolved into something that is about the care experience as a point of departure into everything else, societally and structurally and institutionally. And funding permitting, trying to find ways to still make positive contributions to endowing systems and awareness and such, to be the best that they can be. But Emma, I saw your mic go on, so I think you have a question.
I'm happy to listen in for another 5 minutes or whatever, but it's really interesting, really powerful. Thank you for sharing it with us today. I think, interestingly, I've worked at Strathclyde University for more than 10 years now, and I know there's lots of work goes on around about supporting care experienced students within the university, but I hadn't heard of this work. So really exciting to hear that Strathclyde are part of it, but also, where have I been? Where, like, what email have I missed? What's the so I think that's kind of, it's reminded me of how if you're on the wrong mailing list, you can get left out of the loop on some of these conversations. I think in terms of, I'm a researcher, so I went to that kind of more methodological piece, and I think it was really interesting how you talked about where there's discord or differences in views and things like that. But I was really keen to understand a bit more about, well, two things really, like the funding aspect of it. How do you how are you funded? How do you maintain this model? How do you get the resources to be able to do it? But also within that, how do you decide what to look at? Oh, see, now this is more exciting than any question I could ask. So how's that decision arrived at? about, okay, we're going to talk about this, we're going to take it down this direction, like within those verbatim conversations between peers, how's that navigated? I'd be really keen to hear more about that. But equally just happy to wait, say hello to the new attendee.
Well, the funding question, we have had some grants from, hello, sorry, got a bit distracted there. We have had some grants from the Arts and Humanities Research Council, which were large grants. We haven't had one for a while though, and so we've been getting sort of bits and bobs of money from different places really. But there's a trust and foundation called the Portal Trust that we were able to get some money from to develop our digital resource and share it in London. And Queen Mary Impact Fund is another source of our funding. But I won't, again, I mean, it's an ongoing issue for us because we've also made funding applications that haven't been successful. And it's one of those capacity questions that in the end that it's very, very time consuming to do this, to continue this work. And we do try to work as ethically, which means paying our co-researchers. So that does increase the cost that we need to ask for as well, so that we have that issue. So yeah, that is I'm sure that's a similar thing to a lot of people trying to do this type of participatory research, that it is difficult, very difficult to get the funding. And the other question go on.
I suppose it was like, it's that tension, isn't it, between kind of wanting to create this space where people can generate their own ideas, their own research questions, their own kind of areas of curiosity, but also seeking funding, and the funding infrastructure being geared around having a predefined set of research questions or research interests before you apply for the funding. And it just is it's such a tricky landscape to be in, because it's
That's definitely an issue, because they want defined research questions. But in the past we've been successful at having research questions about methodologies. So how can we create a research methodology using this type of artistic research, for example? So that has worked for us with the Arts and Humanities Research Council. But also, of course, it's been really, really important to us to have the opinions of the co-researchers in to make the research responsive to the questions and types of research that they want to do. So what we've tried to do is get enough of a pot of money to create the space and the conversations within that space to work out what that research agenda is. But you're absolutely right. It's a constant tension and juggling between being specific for the funders, but then kind of creating enough space and time to let the research grow more organically.
And I guess a lot of this is the point of departure is applied and social theatre as a discipline, and that has a strong facilitative core. So to answer how some of the research customs are generated, it might be that within the research team a hunch is followed, or an awareness that comes from our own lived experience of relationships and socialities around care means that we can pitch questions that then start conversations, and we elucidate research questions out of that. The resource, the 6 steps resource that you saw on the slide at high speed, was one of those projects. It came out of conversations and a realization that many of the co-researchers were engaging in creative activity to support themselves, self-actualize, protect their well-being anyway. And so wouldn't it be interesting to make that kind of offer in an appropriate way to other care experience young people who may not be doing that? But there is always the tension of, even if a project is successful and recognized academically and wins awards, which we've been fortunate to do, there is still part of the ecology that says, yeah, but what's new and innovative about what you're doing when a funding stream finishes, which is a challenge.
Yeah. I don't envy you the task. I think that rightly that, it's important that we kind of voice is captured more effectively. And this sounds like such a valuable way of doing that. But it's so tricky, isn't it, to hold that space and hold that kind of those principles you talked about early on within the kind of confines of the system that we work in.
That's right. Yeah.
Some of my students yesterday were talking about Sarah Ahmed, a scholar, who talks about institutionality. And to paraphrase them, not quote them verbatim, she says, when you present a problem, you become a problem. And I think that's one of the things that's about this. There's a common understanding that care experience can be challenging and there are implications of it. But there's then a really interesting reaction when you say, okay, if you accept that, what should we do about it? That becomes really, really interesting.
That's a problem.
That becomes the problem. That becomes the problem.
Yeah.
Amy, I'm aware that it's 3 minutes past 5.
On over 5.
Well, I hate to wrap us up because I feel like we could go on and talk about this for a long time, but I guess in order to honor everyone's time, we should probably wrap up here. But thank you so much to our presenters for talking with us today and sharing about your work. Just a reminder, we will be posting this recording on the INTRAC website. Once it's posted, I'll send an email out to the listserv so people have the opportunity to see that, especially the people who aren't able to be here today. And I will stop the recording now.